They never expected you to rise in silence. They planned for noise, for chaos, for breakdowns they could point to and say, "See, told you so." But what they got was far more dangerous: stillness, clarity, and undeniable results. Chosen One, let's not sugarcoat it. What you carry terrifies them. You don't just walk in truth, you are the proof. And that kind of power, it disrupts every mask they wear. The ones who tried to play you are now being played by the very darkness they summoned. They thought they were smart, calculating, untouchable, but when you didn't break the way they expected, it messed with their whole plan. Their manipulation hit a wall they didn't see coming: your transformation. They spoke curses, and now those same words are echoing back at them. That's what happens when you target someone chosen. The energy doesn't die, it multiplies, and it knows exactly where to return. They wanted you broken, but you're blooming. They wanted you silent, but your energy screams in rooms you haven't entered. Every time they try to drag your name, it gets heavier for them to carry. Because you're not running anymore. You're rising, and it's not just personal, it's spiritual. The glow of someone aligned with purpose burns too bright for hidden enemies to survive. Before we go deeper, if you feel this power in your bones, if you know you're not just here to survive, but to shift everything around you, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because this space is for the ones who see through the smoke, who rise when they're counted out, who are hunted and still walking undefeated. Your presence alone is a haunting reminder to your enemies. They never stood a chance. Before moving ahead, let me take a moment to thank each of you who has supported this mission through Super Thanks. Your generosity is more than a gift. It's a sign that your spirit recognizes the power of this calling. It shows you're not just observing justice unfold, you're aligned with it, standing in the same light that's exposing every falsehood and protecting every chosen soul from the schemes that were meant to destroy them. If this message speaks to something deeper within you, if your heart knows that truth doesn't just survive, it returns with clarity, drop a 999 in the comments below. Not as a trend, but as a quiet agreement with purpose, a whispered yes to your alignment, your light, and your victory in motion. Number 1. Stop letting their denial control the narrative. Truth feels heavy because it shatters illusions. What's shaking around you now is not random. It's a direct result of every moment you chose truth when it was easier to stay silent. This isn't just confirmation, Chosen One. This is divine disruption. The system around you wasn't built to withstand your clarity. You didn't just awaken, you shattered the spell. The second you started moving with vision, not noise, everything that was built on lies began to crack. Not because you forced it, but because truth, when lived out loud, doesn't knock politely. It kicks in the door. While others were lulled to sleep by convenience and distraction, you saw the patterns. What they called normal, you identified as manipulation. You noticed the strange silence when injustice entered the room. You noticed the fake smiles masking hidden agendas. You caught the hand before it reached for the knife, and still, they called you the problem. You weren't the chaos, you were the signal, you were the shift. Your gift wasn't welcomed because it exposed too much. They called it attitude, they called it drama, they even called it paranoia. But now the same people who laughed at your intuition are sitting in rooms they can't escape, trapped by the very energies you warned them about. The masks are slipping, the fake peace is cracking, and they don't know how to face the mirror without you taking the blame. They thought you were off. But you were just early, way too early for their comfort. And now the timeline has caught up. The very energy they dismissed as too deep is the only thing keeping you 10 steps ahead while they sink in the mess they created. They can't unsee what's unfolding. They can't pretend your words didn't age like prophecy. Chosen One, this is what happens when you carry vision in a world addicted to surface. You weren't meant to be liked. You were meant to activate, to irritate the lie until the truth had no choice but to rise, and it is rising. Your light is loud now, and the people who once denied you, they're quiet, real quiet, because now they see you were never delusional, you were tuned in, you weren't too intense, you were accurate. So if your voice was silenced, know this: your silence triggered a storm. You are not just a witness to the shift, you are the reason it began. Let that truth sit deep in your bones. This is your season of loud clarity, and they'll have no choice but to watch what they once mocked unfold right in front of them. Number 2. Don't mistake your awakening for isolation. It was a setup for divine alignment, not abandonment. They tried to make you believe you were alone because you started seeing through the noise. You noticed the shift, the cold energy, the way certain people stopped calling, the fake support that vanished the moment you stopped playing small. But let's get one thing clear. That silence wasn't rejection, it was redirection. You weren't being cut off, you were being set apart. Chosen one, awakening will always feel like abandonment at first. You were pulled from the crowd, not because you didn't belong, but because your vision outgrew their comfort zones. Your clarity made their confusion uncomfortable. Your growth made their stagnation visible, and instead of rising with you, they stepped back. But their absence wasn't punishment. It was proof that the universe was clearing your space for alignment. What you thought was a breakdown was really a breakout. You weren't being left behind. You were being called forward. Look around. Your energy doesn't fit in the rooms it used to shrink in. That's not loss. That's elevation. The isolation you hated so much, that was your preparation ground. While they were busy seeking attention, you were building spiritual strength in silence. And now they feel it. The energy you carry haunts them. The peace you gained without their approval speaks louder than any explanation ever could. You were never abandoned. You were hidden, so when you emerged, nothing could stop the shift you were born to ignite. Number 3. Quit looking for validation from the blind. They laughed at prophecy until it knocked on their door. They couldn't see it then, and truthfully, they still can't now. Because blindness isn't just about vision, it's about refusal. They chose not to see you, not because your light wasn't bright, but because their comfort depended on pretending it didn't exist. Chosen one, they laughed at your insight, mocked your warnings, rolled their eyes at your clarity. Because if they accepted your vision as real, they'd have to confront everything they were hiding from. And that was never something they had the courage to do. You weren't asking to be worshipped. You were asking to be heard. But instead of leaning in, they leaned away. They labeled you dramatic. They told others you were too much. But now that same too much is unfolding right outside their window. The prophecy they dismissed has arrived uninvited, and it's sitting in their living room demanding attention. Funny how they're quiet now. Funny how their questions sound eerily similar to the warnings you gave when no one was listening. Quit seeking clarity from the confused. You are not meant to be understood by those still hiding from themselves. Your validation doesn't live in their applause. It lives in the alignment you've always carried. You didn't miss it. They just weren't ready for it. And now, too late, they're realizing you were never out of touch. They were just out of range. Number 4. Resist the urge to prove them wrong. Let the truth rise and do what vengeance never could. They expected a reaction. They craved your breakdown. They wanted you to beg for understanding, to fight for credibility, to throw your name into a debate they already decided on behind closed doors. But chosen one, the moment you refused to prove them wrong, you shattered their entire playbook. Because you understood something they didn't. Truth doesn't argue. It reveals. You knew that trying to clear your name in a room full of people who benefited from your silence would never bring justice. It would only drain your power. So instead, you chose elevation over explanation, distance over drama, purpose over petty. And now, the same people who were so confident in their lies are watching those lies collapse under the weight of reality. The narrative they built is falling apart, not because you exposed it, but because it couldn't hold against time. You didn't lift a finger, and yet everything they said is backfiring in real time. That's the difference between revenge and revelation. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was war, the kind that doesn't swing wildly but strikes surgically. Every step you took in peace became a blow to their illusion, and now the truth is rising, stronger, louder, and completely undeniable, not because you screamed it, but because you lived it. And that's something vengeance could never do. Number 5. Stop chasing closure from counterfeit circles. Their unity died when you stepped out of the fire. They only looked united when your light was present. Let that sink in. The moment you stepped away, the cracks they tried to paint over became fault lines. And now everything they built on fake loyalty is falling apart. Chosen one, stop chasing closure from people who only stood beside each other because they stood against you. That wasn't real unity. That was survival mode disguised as friendship. They weren't bonded in love, purpose, or vision. They were bonded in resentment, control, and denial. And when your presence was no longer there to rally around, their masks started slipping, one by one. They said you were the drama, but now their piece is in pieces. They said you were the unstable one, but now their circle is eating itself alive with secrets and suspicion. Funny how stable people become when the real one leaves the room, and even funnier how unstable they get when there's no one left to scapegoat. You didn't leave the fire broken, you walked out refined. And your exit? It was their unraveling. Your absence is louder than their presence ever was. So no, you don't need an apology. You don't need a sit-down conversation. You don't need their version of closure, because truth already closed that door for you. The truth revealed that their unity was never real. It was just a reflection of the threat you posed to their illusion. Let them deal with the ashes. Let them figure out who's real when you're no longer the topic. You've stepped into peace now. You're not chasing answers, you're attracting clarity. And the ones who tried to hold you back, they're now holding on to each other for dear life, wondering why everything feels colder without the fire you used to bring. Number 7. Stay silent when they get loud. Your restraint is the sword they never saw coming. They expected you to snap, to scream, to react with fire so they could label you unstable and turn your truth into a spectacle. But you did the one thing their chaos couldn't handle. You stayed silent. You didn't flinch. You didn't feed their noise. And that silence, that was the sword. That was the strike. That was the moment everything shifted in your favor without you having to lift a single hand. Chosen one, when they got loud, when their lies echoed in rooms you couldn't access, when they tried to smear your name in circles you never sat in, you chose restraint, and that's exactly what exposed them. Your quiet wasn't weakness, it was warfare. While they danced for attention, you stood still in purpose. And now that stillness is screaming louder than their performances ever could. They thought silence meant defeat, but silence carries weight. It made people curious. It made people wonder. It made people watch. And the more they talked, the more their credibility dissolved. Because real ones can feel the energy shift. They can sense who's truly grounded and who's desperately overcompensating. You didn't clap back. You didn't argue for your truth. And now, they're haunted by the fact that you never needed to. Your presence alone dismantled their lies. And the restraint you showed, it's not just remembered, it's respected. Because anybody can shout, but only the powerful know how to wait. You didn't react. You recalibrated. And now everything they tried to control is spiraling. They never saw your silence coming. And now, it's the very thing cutting through every illusion they built. Let them talk. Let them perform. You're not in that arena anymore. You're in alignment. And that alone is the loudest truth of all. Number 8. Stop thinking strength is noise. Real power is accountable, quiet, and spiritually untouchable. They thought you were weak because you weren't loud, because you didn't bark back, because you didn't flex your pain for attention or perform your power for approval. But Chosen One, what they didn't understand is this: real strength never has to scream. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just is. And that presence, it's what made you untouchable. They assumed silence meant surrender, that your stillness meant you had nothing left, but you were conserving your energy while they burned theirs, chasing validation. You were building power in the quiet while they exhausted themselves in noise. The truth is, you were never hiding, you were watching. And in watching, you saw everything. Their moves, their manipulation, their collapse in slow motion. You didn't need to out-talk them. You outlasted them. You outgrew their chaos. You let their noise reveal what your peace never had to explain. And that's the part they can't handle. How someone so still can shake up so much. How someone so composed can carry energy that flips entire dynamics without saying a word. Chosen One, stop thinking you have to match their volume to prove your value. You are the proof. Your restraint is your roar. Your calm is your fire. Your presence speaks in frequencies their ego can't translate. And the fact that they can't touch you, that's the evidence that you already won. Let them keep making noise. You keep moving in power. Number 9. Don't get caught in their collapse. What looks like external chaos is actually an internal reckoning. Chosen One, you need to understand something loud and clear. Not every storm is your battle. What you're witnessing right now, the panic, the scrambling, the dramatic breakdowns, isn't random. It's not just bad luck or karma catching up. It's a reckoning, but not the kind that comes from the outside. This one is soul deep. They thought they were safe because no one was saying their name out loud. But what's louder than public shame? Private collapse. And that's exactly what's happening now. Their calm was only ever performative. Their power was borrowed. And the minute you pulled your energy back, the whole foundation began to shake. But here's the part that matters for you. Don't get pulled into it. Don't try to rescue what's crumbling under the weight of its own deception. Don't reach into fires you were never meant to burn in. Their collapse is not your calling. It's the consequence of touching what was sacred, lying on what was pure, and playing with energy they couldn't control. What looks like misfortune on the outside is actually the mirror finally turning inward. The anxiety they project, the confusion they carry, the desperation they try to mask, it's all rooted in knowing that what's unfolding now is something they triggered, not you. So stand back, stay grounded. This is not your chaos, this is confirmation. They are not falling apart because of you. They're falling apart because the truth is finally refusing to sit quietly. Let it. Stand still, Chosen One. Your stability will be the loudest contrast to their storm. Number 10. Let go of the pain. Keep the power. What broke you was really preparing you to lead. They thought breaking you would bury you, but they underestimated what pain does to a chosen one. You didn't crumble. You converted. The weight that was meant to crush you ended up sculpting you into something they can't even stand to look at now. Let's get this straight. What broke you didn't end you. It unlocked you. They don't understand that the pressure wasn't punishment. It was positioning. You had to be isolated to get clarity. You had to be stripped of false support to see who you really were. And every breakdown they celebrated was actually a blueprint being downloaded into your spirit. The betrayal, it sharpened your discernment. The loss, it opened space for alignment. The rejection, It redirected your entire destiny. You weren't being ruined. You were being refined. Chosen one, let go of the pain, but keep the blueprint. Keep the awareness. Keep the silence that taught you what noise never could. That heartbreak gave you power no comfort ever would. They thought they saw your last chapter when you were in tears. They didn't know tears water roots. And now, you're not just standing, you're leading. Not from pride, but from a place of divine resilience that had to be earned in private before it could shine in public. That pain wasn't random. It was the initiation. And now that you've walked through the fire without smelling like smoke, you carry something far more dangerous than a title. You carry evidence, the kind that speaks without saying a word. So no, you're not here to relive what happened. You're here to lead from it. You're not just healed, you're activated. And they can feel it in every room you enter. Number 11. Quit waiting for fairness. Divine justice doesn't need a courtroom. It works in precision, silence. Quit waiting for fairness, because fairness, in the way they define it, was never built for you. You're not walking through a man-made system. You're walking through a spiritual equation, and those don't require judges, crowds, or applause. Divine justice doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't ask for permission. It moves in precision silence and strikes in perfect alignment. Chosen one, they expected you to scream for validation. They expected breakdowns, emotional outbursts, desperate explanations. But what they never calculated was your ability to let the storm pass without bending. That restraint, that silence. It echoed louder than all their noise combined. And now, the same people who once laughed at your pain can't laugh anymore, because it's their turn to carry the weight of what they once dismissed. This justice doesn't need an audience. It doesn't come with flashing lights. It arrives through quiet shifts, relationships breaking down, reputations unraveling, secrets turning into exposure. And all while your hands remain clean, because you didn't chase revenge. You chased alignment. You chose growth. You kept walking. And now the universe is answering every lie spoken on your name without you lifting a finger. Let them keep looking for fairness in broken systems. You've already moved beyond it. You're walking with a different kind of authority now, one that doesn't beg to be understood, one that allows divine law to handle what words never could. Number 12. Walk like the verdict is already in. You don't have to explain the truth when you're living it out loud. They wanted you stuck in the courtroom of public opinion, defending yourself against lies they carefully rehearsed behind your back. They expected you to beg for understanding, to over-explain, to shrink just enough for their stories to make sense. But chosen one, those days are done. You no longer owe anyone a presentation. The verdict is already written in the way you carry yourself. You're not out here arguing your truth, you're embodying it, and that's what haunts them. Because every time you walk in a room without apologizing for your presence, it exposes the games they played. Every success you touch, every ounce of peace you radiate, every relationship you elevate without trying, it all screams what they hoped no one would ever figure out. You were right. When you live aligned, you don't need to announce it. When your energy is clean, the contrast speaks for itself. That's why they're uncomfortable now. Not because you said too much, but because you finally stopped saying anything at all. You're walking in clarity, and they're still trying to cover up confusion. You're glowing in silence, while they scramble with stories that no longer land. So walk like it's done, chosen one, because it is. You're not waiting for validation. You're not seeking approval. You've already been stamped by the truth, and now your life is walking evidence. Keep moving. Keep rising. And let your peace be louder than their accusations ever were. And as we wrap this moment, let it settle deep in your spirit. You don't owe explanations when your evolution is undeniable. The The truth you carry doesn't need defense, it just needs space to shine. Every step you take now is a reminder to the world that silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. And your presence, that's the final statement. If this message echoed something real within you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below and let the world know you're no longer explaining, you're walking in truth. The verdict is in, and it's always been in your favor.